source of the anxiety is the work itself, is the subversion into dunya. Other times we see people that take substances, they feel the anxiety, they are getting distance from Allah, they take substances to mask that. It's no mistake that the society that we live in, it is one of the most anxious societies in the world, I think even in human history. And it's no mistake that the consumption of illicit and licit substances is one of the highest in the world. There's a connection. Now, one of the things that we have to recognize as believers is that we have a primary enemy, Shaitan. Inshallah, tomorrow night, we're going to be going a little bit deeper into the story of Shaitan. This primary enemy of ours, he looks at us and he wants to destroy the lives that we have. Shaitan, he typically does two things. Number one, he looks at you and he says, can I get this individual to commit a sin? That sin is going to create a distance from Allah. If I can create that distance, it's going to create that separation, that anxiety, and then I will convince him that the way to get rid of the anxiety is to commit another sin. It'll make you feel good for a little bit. Commit the sin, and now I have it moving even further away. But there's a problem here, that when it comes to the believers, when it reaches people like us, maybe Shaitan comes, he whispers, but he isn't able to convince you to commit a sin. You say, no, Shaitan, I'm not going to commit the sin. In that case, Shaitan has a very potent backup. What is his backup plan? His backup plan is that he will come and he will convince me and you that I don't need you to commit a sin, but you should get more immersed in dunya. Look at this beautiful world. Look at all of the halal that you could engage in, you could buy it, you could possess. Just go towards it. And sometimes we see that we become so absorbed with dunya that we begin to also become separated from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not a sin. What we're doing is not haram. But the dunya, the submersion, that itself is causing a separation between us and Allah, and then comes the anxiety, then comes all of those feelings that funnel within us. Please recite it to Allah. Imam Ali alayhi salam, in this beautiful tradition, he warns us about this issue. You see, sometimes the Ahlul Bayt, they don't warn you about haram. They know that this group, they are believers. They're not going to be easily fooled by shaitan. So they would warn about even the halal. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says in a tradition, be cautious not to lengthen your hope. For many a deceived person has been enticed by this long hope, and it has corrupted his deeds and it has cut short his life. Then neither was that hope realized, nor was that which he lost regained. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he's giving us very valuable advice that in this life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to me and you, it's very short. It's very short. You know, sometimes we ask our elders, 70, 80 years old, we ask them the question, this long life that you have lived, we might only be 15, 20, 30. This long life that Allah has blessed you with, and may Allah inshallah bless all of our elders with even longer lives. How did it feel? How long was it? And without any exception, they are going to say it was just a few moments. I was your age. I was your age. I was finishing high school, finishing university. I was about to get married. I was about to get my first job. And suddenly I blinked my eyes and here I am. Here I am.
One of the dangers is that we become so hopeful of all of these worldly things that we want to achieve. And again, there's nothing wrong with going and enjoying life. Alhamdulillah, Allah has created this world for our enjoyment, to go and to see the beauty and to enjoy what He has given. But the danger is that when I forget about the akhirah, and I think that this world is all that will ever exist for me, and then I begin to have these very long hopes that I'm going to buy this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to have this social status, and next thing that you know, I am 80, 90 years old, I'm at the end, or the tail end of that journey. And suddenly I say, Ya Allah, what have I achieved for my akhirah? What have I achieved? It's very important that we are careful, especially in this holy month of Muharram, that we prioritize. Ya Allah, show us what is the most important things for us to achieve, and allow us to leave those things which are not that important. We can do without those things. Now here, I wanted to open the door and begin to go into this question. The question is, what are the ways in which we can attain a higher level of peace and calm? And there's many bits of advice, but before we begin with this, one of the first questions that people ask, as soon as you mention spirituality, you mention the issue of attaining a level of calmness, a level of peace, getting rid of anxiety, they ask, what is it in regards to new age ideas? Is that something that we should pursue? Because sometimes people, they're very honest. They say, look, I've been a Muslim for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and I've been praying and I've been fasting, but I don't really feel that inner calm. I don't know. Maybe organized religion, it's good, it's not bad, but it doesn't offer me what I'm really after. But they say that, for example, when we look at these new age gurus, these ideas that they have, we find them to be very useful. That's a question that comes up. Should we take advice from people in the new age? One of the things is that in Islam, there is nothing wrong with taking ideas from different groups. Islam doesn't say that it is haram, for example, to go to these different groups and to take the good ideas, the good practices that they have. But one of the things that we have to be careful about is that whenever you have an ideology, a movement, many times it's not just techniques. Many times it's much more than that, in the sense that they will give you a way of seeing the world, a way of interacting with the world. I'll give you an example. There was a book by the name of The Surrender Experiment. Some of you might have read it. It was by an author by the name of Michael A. Singer. That one of the things that he wrote about is this idea that from a very young age, he decided to submit to the universe. So whenever he had the universe give him a hint, an idea, he would essentially see if that was something that was a good idea, and even if it was difficult, he would go in that direction. And he would always say, the universe was guiding me. The universe was providing for me. The universe was helping me. Now, the problem with this kind of language is that what does it mean when we say the universe? Is it the atoms in the heavens, they come together, they give me rizq? Is it that random atoms, they come together and they guide me? That's impossible. The universe, it doesn't mean anything. And so one of the dangers that we see with the New Age movement, and many times we seek principles or practices from them, is that alongside these practices, some of which may be very valuable, they also will transmit these kinds of ideas. And even more importantly, when we look, sometimes we see that the focus is entirely on the self. And this is also very dangerous. Because when we look at Islam as a religion, where is the focus? The focus is on the creator of the universe who has created everything and all of us. And so to fall into an ideology that does not recognize God in essence, it ignores God, and then it focuses wholly on the self, there is a danger point. So the advice here that I wanted to mention is that there's no problem with taking practices, sometimes taking an idea or two, but always be careful that it fits within that ideology, within that framework of our faith. Going back to that original question that people had asked, why is it that someone can be a Muslim for 20 years, for 30 years, 50 years, 80 years, and they say that when I pray, I don't feel anything. When I fast, I don't feel anything. I just feel hungry. Why is that? One of the reasons, my brothers and sisters, going back, when we look at how religion was taught to me and you, and this is partly a function of the modern day world, the world that focuses on efficiency, on to-do lists, the way that religion was sometimes taught to me and you is that religion is a to-do list. Sometimes we feel that. I wake up in the morning and in my mind, I say I have to do 5 prayers today. And it's almost as if in my mind I have a check mark. Okay, I did Fajr, I get 1 reward. I did Dhuhr, I get another reward. I did Asr, Maghrib, Isha. We're focusing on it as if it is just things to do. You know what we're missing? Religion is not a to-do list. Islam is not a to-do list. Islam is a state of being. Islam is a hal. You know, one of the ways that we could say it is that Islam is a to be. That when I am engaging in the salah, what am I trying to do? I'm not just trying to do the motions. Something is supposed to happen during that prayer. But many times we miss it. And sometimes we miss it for decades. That we have been praying, we have been fasting, but we haven't been utilizing that prayer in the way that Allah asked us to. I want you to do something when you go home tonight. Ask yourself this question, that when I pray, when I fast, do I have the presence of heart? Do I feel that connection? If I don't feel the connection, then why not? Just like when you go to a doctor, you say, doctor, something's wrong inside of me. I need help. I need to figure this out. Sometimes it's something very simple. Sometimes we're just not paying attention. We go into the salah and it's, I call it the rocket ship. That as soon as we say Allahu Akbar, the rocket ship takes off. And we are thinking about all of the things that we have to do and all of the duties that we have and responsibilities. And then suddenly, when the salah ends, the rocket ship comes back to earth and we land and we say, whoa, what happened? Sometimes it's something very simple, that sitting before the salah for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, thinking about Allah. Ya Allah, I'm going to be speaking to you. Please, I ask that you allow me to connect to you easily. Sometimes that is enough to resolve this issue. But we have to remember this, that if we are going through the motions, but nothing is happening inside, that is not what Islam wants from me and you. And by the way, don't fall for the trap of saying, okay, it's not happening, therefore I'm going to simply stop the prayers. No, that's even worse. That's even worse. The issue is that something is wrong. Let me fix the issue. All right. Let's move to a few concepts that inshallah we can utilize that will allow us to have a little bit more of that sense of peace within ourselves. Number 1, brothers and sisters, is the issue of tawakkul. I know that we've all heard tawakkul. Our parents from a very young age, whenever something would go wrong, they would say, have tawakkul. What tawakkul really means is that we acknowledge that we are living in a very dangerous world. It's so dangerous living in this world, you know? You're driving down the road, you don't have the least idea what is going to happen. Any of those cars, have you ever thought about this? Any of those cars could veer into your car at any moment. They say that every time you take a breath, you are breathing in millions and millions of bacteria. But Allah protects you. He has that immune system that He's created that defeats. We are living in a world of danger with many things that we cannot control. We have to trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has our backs. He knows exactly what is going to happen to me and you. He only wants the best for us. Now, of course, many times when something negative that we perceive as negative happens to us, we see it as something bad, almost as a punishment. People actually will come and they'll ask, what did I do wrong? Sometimes it's not a punishment. It's a blessing. Allah is using that test to purify, to strengthen, to make you into a better version of yourself. But we have to recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows exactly what He's doing. If we can trust in Him, that will take away so much of the anxiety. Because when you feel alone, when you feel as if it's you versus the universe, of course you are going to feel the weight of the entire world crushing you. Of course you're going to feel it. You should feel it. But if you feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is next to you, He is supporting you, He is helping you, then it alleviates many of those feelings. This was number one, tawakkul. Number two, and this is, I admit, it is such a difficult one to practice in reality. It is taslim. It is surrender to the will of Allah. You know, sometimes we are going in a direction in our lives and we want something so badly and we're so close to achieving it. And then suddenly something happens that completely changes the direction that we're going in. As an example, imagine that you want to become a doctor. That's been your hope and dream from age 10. And you do everything that you can, everything right. You take all of the exams, you do well on them, you go to all of the right schools, but then suddenly in that last moment, something happens that you know without a shred of doubt, you're not going to be able to become a doctor. At least not at that moment. Here, my brothers and sisters, there's two options that we have. One is that you can rage. You can get angry. You can say, Ya Allah, I did X, Y, and Z. I did everything right. Why did you do this to me? Or you can think to yourself, I did everything that I could. There has to be hikmah. There has to be a wisdom to this. Maybe if I went down that path, something negative would have happened. Allah, maybe He has something better for me. You know, there was a sheikh, he was telling me the story. He said that when he was a young man, and he was not in the US, he was not in the Western world, he says that I really wanted to become a doctor. That was his biggest dream. And he says one day, when I was in high school, I was towards the end of high school, some of the kids in the classroom, they began to cheat. They were cheating on the exam. And he says that suddenly the teacher, he noticed that the cheating was happening, and during that time in that country, it wasn't like the US where they say, okay, you know, you're gonna maybe get a slap on the wrist. No, you'd actually get kicked out of high school. You'd become a high school dropout. He says that when the teacher caught them, for some reason, he thought that I was cheating as well. He says they dragged us all into the office, and I refused to tell them that who it was. They said, we know you're a good student, but you have to tell us who it was. He says, I can't. What ended up happening is that they expelled him. He says that when they expelled him, his father lost it. He says, now what are you going to do? His mother who had always secretly hoped that the son would become a scholar, she said, okay, the door to medicine is now closed. Academia is over for you. Let's have him go to the Hawza. He ends up going to the Hawza. He becomes a very successful, very well-known alim. In that moment, of course, it's not really fair from his perspective. But in that moment, he could have had this option of becoming depressed. Why did this happen to me? He chose to say, you know what? There is a wisdom in what is taking place. When you submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, this is different from you're doing everything that you can, but you submit. Then that takes off so much of the anxiety, so much of the weight that we sometimes feel. This was number 2. Number 3, I mentioned this last night, and is the issue of being present in the now. Because one of the dangers is that many times we tend to go either in the past or we tend to go in the future, and that robs us of the tranquility of now. Alhamdulillah, look at where you are sitting. A beautiful place, a peaceful place. Nothing to bother you. There's this mosquito that I just saw right now, other than the mosquito. But when you become present in the moment, that takes away many of the worries. And by the way, one of the things that they recommend is that whenever you begin to feel that sense of jumping around, you feel like you're going in the past, you feel that you're going in the future, you're worried about X, Y, and Z, they say do something very simple. Ask yourself, do I have everything that I need now? Do I have food in my stomach? Alhamdulillah, satiated. Am I thirsty? No, I have plenty of water. Do I have a roof over my head? Alhamdulillah, Allah has provided me with the best of that. Do I have a vehicle to get to where I need to go today? Do I have everything that I need on this day right now? As soon as you recognize that Allah has given you everything that you need now, say Alhamdulillah. Remove that anxiety and that worry and try to live in that present moment. This was number 3. Number 4, this is going to be a little bit new age, but it is something valuable, and there's nothing wrong with it, is that sometimes the modern day lifestyle that we are living, it makes us so tense that we actually stop breathing properly. I don't know if you've ever noticed, when you take a deep breath, it feels really good. It really feels relaxing. And they have techniques. In fact, they have entire books that they've written about different breathing techniques. The physiological effects that it has, the calming effect that it has. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He created breath, He created air. It's one of the greatest blessings that He has given to us. And so tapping into this, taking these different breaths, utilizing these different breathing exercises. There's a very good book by the name of, I don't know if it's Breath or Breathe, I can't remember right now. But it's an amazing book. It goes through different sequences. You can try these sequences and see how you feel. Many times it has a very profound effect. Number 6, we're going to end it here inshallah. Many times, what causes anxiety and worry is the fact that I am sitting and I am thinking about what I need to do. It's an issue. I'm sitting there thinking about, for example, something that I know I have to do, but I'm not really sure how to tackle it. And I'm holding back. I'm trying to figure out, okay, should I do it? Should I not do it? How should I do it? Many times, when we actually begin to do, we begin to move. Of course, you do your planning, you do your consultation, you do all of that properly. But when you've figured it out, don't hesitate. Dive into it, whatever that is. And when you begin to perform, when you begin to do these actions, that itself removes much of the worry. You know, sometimes someone may say that I'm trying to find a job. I don't know where to look. I don't know what to do. One of the advices that is given is that just begin. Get some advice, see how it's done, and then jump into it. Don't worry about the issue of perfection and perfecting the resume and this and that. Jump into it. By doing and by performing that action, you are going to alleviate much of that negative energy that you feel. And the final point, which I wasn't going to mention, I'll mention it. It is the remembrance of death. And I know sometimes we have a very negative view of death. Inshallah, we'll do a module on the final night on death. I want us really to reach the point where not only do we not fear death, but in fact, the world after is something that we look forward to. If you understand what it really is, you're going to look forward to it. But one of the things that really takes away a lot of the anxiety and the stress is none other than remembering the reality of death. I don't know what it is about death, but it has a quality that it sets our priorities straight. That individual that was speaking ill about me, when you really think about it, I'm only going to be alive on this earth for a very short period of time. It's so short. Should I really stress about what that person said? This happened at work, or I lost my job. I got into a car accident, God forbid. Should I really worry about it? When you remember death, you remember life. And when you remember life, you remember that this world is something which is very fleeting. Here I'll end it with that saying of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He has that beautiful saying that he says that it is as if the dunya never was and the akhirah was all that ever has been. In the eyes of the Imam on that day of Karbala, that was the world that he was seeing. He was seeing the fleeting nature of this world. That just after a few days, all of the struggles, all of the ups and downs that really break our heart, all of the issues that we face, the trials and tribulations, all of it ends and we enter into the akhirah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all that peace and that calm that we are looking for. May He heal all of your hearts through the love of Imam Hussein. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. ثانية على حب الزهراء صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. ثالثة لتعجيل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمن صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. Inshallah, a reminder before we enter into the majalis tomorrow, we'll also be posting on social media. Please bring your own personal Qur'ans with you tomorrow to act as an act to stand against what was being done with the desecration of the Holy Qur'an. As you all have heard, there have been many gatherings around the world and also at centers and different majalis now that they're bringing the Qur'an. So we ask of you, inshallah, bring your own personal Qur'an tomorrow for a short segment and talking about what's happened very shortly before we enter the majlis tomorrow night. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. A reminder, the same reminder that we have every single night, inshallah, that when we come into the majalis of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, we want to shed tears tears in a way that it's going to help us reform our hearts and reform our path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to lead us towards better action and purification once we leave these majalis, not only for the sake of tears, for the sake of growth and for the sake of changing ourselves once we leave these majalis, inshallah. As the urafa and our scholars tell us, if you have a hard time crying, one of the things that you can do is just lower your head in grief, and inshallah you get the same reward as if you were crying. Or try to do istighfar before you begin the majalis. This could be a means of softening your heart and allowing the tears to flow. We have one saying from Ayatollah Bahjah rahmatullahi alayh. He says, on the day of judgment, when they don't buy anything from the human being, and he's referring to maybe a lot of our actions are nullified because maybe we broke a heart, maybe we committed sins, maybe we took other people's rights. So he says, on the day of judgment, when they don't buy anything from the human being, or they don't buy much from this human being, crying for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam is cashed like a piece of pearl. So these tears are very precious, inshallah, in these nights that we shed. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله. صلى الله عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة وموضع الرسالة ومختلف الملائكة. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you, our beloved Holy Prophet, and the Ahl al-Bayt. It was in your homes that Allah blessed us with guidance and revelation, and upon you descend the angels day in and day out. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله. صلى الله عليك يا مظلوم. صلى الله عليك يا أيها الشهيد في كربلاء. Everybody together. يا حبيبي يا حسين نور عيني يا حسين. Everybody, so Imam Mahdi can hear you. يا حبيبي يا حسين نور عيني يا حسين. يا رحمة الله الواسعة حسين. Oh, vast mercy of Allah, Hussein. Tonight is dedicated to the mother who spared her 4 children ransom for Abu Abdullah. She spared them ransom for the Imam of her time. Tonight we learn how a true and faithful woman grants all that she has, all her dearest sons and everything she had for Abu Abdullah, so that we grant all we have for the awaited and awaiting Hussein of our time, Imam al-Mahdi. Ashura is sacrifice, sacrificing what's most dear to us for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Imam of our own time. sacrificing our bad habits, the things of this world that don't fit into Allah's laws. This is the time to reflect, brothers and sisters. This is the time to learn from al-Baneen and apply it to ourselves. Listen to the words of poetry. All of my sons for Ali's sons, I tell my Lord whenever to him I pray. I am the mother who gave her sons away. I am the mother who gave her sons away. I'm a mother who has a pride, and what a pride. I'm the lioness who gave away all of her pride. In the love of Muhammad, daily I'd abide. I gave everything, and in my Lord I relied. I had a voice that like Ali's battle cry, cry. With my 4 children's lives, Yazid's rule I defied. I shook his throne with every son. It is the pride that lives with me every day. I am the mother who gave her sons away. I am the mother who gave her sons away. How many doors God opens when one door opens? I married Ali and raised for him 4 lions. Each one holds each other's back and holds their burdens. And in the love of Hussein, their bond is strengthens. They are all but presents to the Prince of Heavens. And I'd give them if they were 4 or they were thousands. al-Baneen never thought twice about sacrificing for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Listen to what this blessed poet says. I tell my Lord, you've given me such an honor. I sacrifice so Hussein can live forever. And I promise you, my Creator, if any serve Hussein, their names I'll remember. If they ask me for a wish, then I shall answer. To every lover of Hussein, I am a mother. If they love him, they're my children. I will rescue them if in their grief they sway. I am a mother who gave her sons away. I am a mother who gave her sons away. When Bashir ibn Hathlam called out in the city of Medina and told the people about the martyrdom of Abu Abdullah, all of the women began to cry and hid their faces in awe. The whole city went loud all at once after hearing about the martyrdom of Abu Abdullah. A narrator has said among the women who emerged upon hearing the announcement was al-Baneen, the wife of Amir al-Mu'mineen Imam Ali. She was holding Al-Abbas's son. At that time, Bishr said that he saw a woman holding a child and trying to make her way towards me. As she walked between the mourning women, al-Baneen walked closer to Bishr and asked him about Imam al-Hussein. Bishr replied, I have news about Abu Abdullah. However, first you must tell me who you are to ask me about Imam al-Hussein. al-Baneen then said, Ya Bishr, I am al-Baneen. I am the mother of Abu Fadl al-Abbas. It is said that Bishr was then afraid to inform her of her children's martyrdom all at once. Bishr began to say, Ya al-Baneen, Azam Allahu laki al-ajr. May Allah reward you for the death of your son Ja'far. al-Baneen then said, Ya Bishr, did you hear me ask you about Ja'far? I asked you about Hussein. Bishr replied, Azam Allahu laki al-ajr. May Allah reward you for the death of your son Uthman. She replied, Bishr, tell me about Hussein. He continued saying, may Allah reward you for the death of your son Abdullah. She repeated her request again. Bishr said, Ya al-Baneen, may Allah reward you for the death of your son Abu Fadl al-Abbas. When she heard Abbas's name, she placed her hand on her heart and said, Bishr, you have informed me about the death of my 4 sons, and I know that my sons would sacrifice their lives for Abu Abdullah. Tell me about Hussein, Bishr. When she heard this, at this point Bishr said, عظم الله لك الآن for the death of your son Hussein. For he was left beheaded on the plains of Karbala. al-Baneen then shouted, Wa Husayna, Wa Walada. Everybody with al-Baneen, Wa Husayna, Wa Husayna. The story then tells that after Karbala, Sayyidah Zainab told her helper to stay at the door of their home, so that no one other than a woman who has lost one of their beloved ones in Karbala can enter and mourn with them. The door suddenly knocked. The helper asked who's at the door. The woman answered, tell Sayyidah Zainab that I am her partner in mourning. As the helper informed Sayyidah Zainab, Zainab told her to ask for the woman's name. The woman replied, tell Sayyidah Zainab that I am al-Baneen. That helper opened the door for her and let her in. Sayyidah Zainab hugged al-Baneen. Sayyidah Zainab then cried out, Wa akha, Wa Abbasa. al-Baneen then continued to saying, Wa walada, Wa Husayna. Imagine the scene, brothers and sisters. Imagine Sayyidah Zainab and al-Baneen, the sister of Abu Abdullah, the one who was protected by Imam al-Hussein and Abu Fadl al-Abbas and Ali al-Akbar, having to witness everything that unfolded in Karbala, now mourning over the death of everybody, everything that they went through Sham with the women and the children, and now al-Baneen giving all of her 4 sons in the way of Abu Abdullah, both of them meeting together and mourning them all together. Wa walada, Wa Husayna. And the conversation went on between Sayyidah Zainab and al-Baneen. Listen to these words, listen to these heartbreaking words that al-Baneen asked Sayyidah Zainab. al-Baneen began asking, Zainab, why have you returned alone from Karbala? Zainab, why are you walking with a tilt? Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab. What would Zainab tell al-Baneen about her walking with a tilt? Should she tell her about the beating the women and the children constantly got after being taken captive in Karbala? Should she tell her about the humiliation through the streets and being exposed to all the strangers? Should she tell her about the hundreds of miles traveling as a stranger? What should Sayyidah Zainab tell you, Ya al-Baneen? What would al-Baneen say to Zainab? What would she say to her? Zainab, I am the mother of your guard and protection. It is sad that your back is bad and your tears are falling. Zainab, why is your cheek blue, Zainab? Ya Zainab, the nights were hard on you. Ya Zainab, the nights were hard on you. Everybody together with Sayyidah Zainab. Wa Husayna, Wa Shayda, Wa Ghariba, Husayna. Everybody together send our salams to Abu Abdullah, truly from our hearts in these nights. Ya Husayna. جميعا جميعا يا حسينا سلام من قلوب أنت فيها يا حسينا سلام من قلوب أنت فيها يا حسينا لك الأرواح طرا نفتديها يا حسينا. Peace be upon you from all the hearts you are in. Ya Husayna. Peace be upon you from all the hearts you are in. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. سيعلم الذين ظلموا على بيت محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. To Allah we belong, and to Him is our return, and soon the oppressors will know what change their affairs will take, and the end times will be for the righteous. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, in the name of Hussein, by the right of Hussein,